All right, guys, season 3 is coming up here pretty soon, and honestly, I have been waiting like with bated breath for any announcement or news or anything like that besides what we already got about the new map, and they haven't really given us anything. And as far as the characters are concerned, like Twice and All for One, they're not technically confirmed. They haven't said anything about them. We don't know if they're necessarily coming at the beginning of season 3, so there's like so much up in the air, and I'm really nervous about the launch of season 3. And then of course, on top of all that news, they recently did this patch where they did a bunch of buffs and nerfs to characters that drastically changed the tier list. So I'm interested to see here when season 3 starts how this tier list is going to change. Is it going to like change the meta completely because just the map makes it different, or is it going to stay the same as it is right now? And another question on my mind, are they going to do buffs and nerfs with the introduction of season 3? Because they have nerfed some characters into the ground, like Sue, who could use a tiny buff to make her a little bit better, and at the same time they have made other characters who were bad good, like Konari. Konari is a lot better. So this week we're going to be taking a look at the community votes for this tier list to see how people are feeling in week 7 of season 2, and if any of these characters should be moving around or if we're happy with where they are currently placed in the tier list. And once again, if you guys want to contribute your vote, down in the description of this video I will put a link to the Google form where you guys can go vote for what tier you think these characters should be in. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and switch over here. The first character is Mandor, and there is a 47% vote for A tier and a 43% vote for S tier. This is a character I couldn't believe last week when we did this tier list that you guys moved down to A tier. I feel like he's still really good, but it seems the votes are split, right? Like pretty much down the middle almost. There is a 3-person difference between A and S. So for right now, he is an A tier. We are going to have to end up leaving Deku in A tier, but if you want to see him in S tier, you need to go vote. And I'm not going to reset the votes this time. We do have 87 people who voted on this one, which is really cool. If we could get more votes in here, then do it. If you already voted, you won't be able to vote again, so keep that in mind. But yeah, Deku staying in A tier. A very few people think he's B tier, and then like D tier, we got one person thinking Deku's D tier. They just must not like the anime or the character at all. Bakugo, overwhelmingly still S tier, will probably be S tier till the end of time. Even if they nerfed his damage, right, he still has good mobility. He has long range, he has close range, and he has mid range. He has like one of the most balanced kits in the game, and for that reason I don't think Bakugo will really ever not be S tier. Like, watch me eat my words in season 3 when it starts, but he's probably going to be S tier for a long time to come. Even with the new map, I don't think that'll change anything. Oraka, we kind of have a split vote here. It's close, right? 42 people say she's A tier, and then we had 37 people say she is S tier. I could go either way on this one. I think Oraka is now probably the best mobility character since they have nerfed Sue into the ground and they nerfed Ida's health. I feel like Oraka is probably the best with the spin to win, her grapple that lets her get across the map since they fixed the grapple, It's so crazy that this is a character that I rated as a D rank character because her grapple was terrible, is now all the way up to S tier. Almost. Well, she's staying A tier for right now, but just a couple of votes could change that on next week's tier list. So if you guys want to see Oraka in S, you know what to do. She could be S, okay? But she is already A tier, and she is going to stay A tier for right now. Then we have All Might. 58% of people say All Might is now A tier, and we have 29% of people still riding the copium train saying no, he's S, when in fact he is no longer S. They have nerfed him substantially, okay? And I think All Might, I don't know if he necessarily needed the nerf. I mean, there's other characters like Todoroki who need the nerf a little bit more, but yeah, so All Might, we moved him down to A tier last week right after the buffs and nerfs, so we're going to go ahead and leave him in A tier. I kind of agree with him being A tier now. He doesn't necessarily need to be S tier. He's definitely not lower than A tier, but he's not S tier anymore. Isawa, B tier, I agree with that. However, I will say Isawa is a character who could be an S tier character, depending on who's playing him. However, there is a very high skill ceiling for the character, and I'm assuming all of the bugs have been mostly fixed. At least the times I played him, he's felt pretty good. There might still be the occasional bug with him, but like, this is a character that started out so buggy, and since he released, they just went fix, buff on him, right? And now he's finally like at a playable state, but even at his playable state, he's hard to use. So I feel like that's why people rate him in the B tier overall, especially since this is coming from people who play on both console and PC. I feel like PC players are going to rate him in the A tier because it's probably a little bit easier mobility wise to aim and use him, whereas console players probably struggle a little bit more. But hey, if you play console, let me know down in the comments. Do you think Isawa is a little bit harder to operate than he would be on PC? That's my opinion. I only play on PC though, so that's what I'm thinking. But, you know, let me know in the comments what you guys think. And then Mount Lady. Mount Lady is going to be staying in A tier. She is currently in A tier. 57% of people think she is A tier. And then we have 24 people thinking she's B tier. In a way, I agree with the B tier people because Isawa can shut down Mount Lady. However, not every team is running Isawa. Not every match is going to have Isawa's because he is kind of hard to use. But like just the fact that he can turn off her quirk and she's a big billboard that says turn off my quirk and then hit me, it makes it a little bit rough to play her. And you have to think more situationally when using her. However, that doesn't take away from her being a really good character if you know how to use her correctly. So if you're using her correctly, I agree, she's A tier. If you are maybe a newer player, you don't know exactly when to time and use her special, then I could see her being B tier, right? So she could be either of those. She is currently an A tier, so we'll leave her in A tier. Cementos, a character much beloved by me. I really love this character. He's so much fun to play. He is in A tier. He's going to stay in A tier, and you can see that he is currently in A tier along with Mount Lady right there. And we're going to leave him there. I would love to see Cementos in S someday, but let's just face it, he doesn't have the horizontal mobility that you need. But guys, he has like mid-range attacks with his wall. He has long range with his alpha. He has the ability to revive teammates, and he has a little bit of escapability in the form of vertical escapability. So I mean, in my eyes, he has it all. He's just kind of hard to use and not, you know, troll your teammates. So that's the biggest problem I think that holds him back. And so for that reason, I understand him being an A, but someday I would love to see him in S. Probably will never happen. Unless maybe the new map changes that somehow, but I mean, who knows? Who knows? Dobby. Dobby is in B tier right now, and that is where he will stay apparently. We got 24 people saying he's A. We got 48 people saying he's B, so about double the amount of people. And Dobby is a character that I think is long overdue for a buff. Yes, they buffed his projectile speed at one point, but his projectiles are still the easiest projectile to dodge in the game, I'd argue, because they're so slow. And yes, they do track to make up for how slow they are, but like even then you just roll dodge and it's not hard. It's just, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan. His whole kit is just not great. I don't know what you would do to actually buff him, but he needs something. He needs something, right? So in the comments, if you have an idea, what can we do for Dobby to make him an S tier character? You know, what's going to help him get there? Drop that idea in the comments. I really don't have one. I don't have an idea. I haven't really enjoyed playing the character though since he came out. I haven't enjoyed his kit that much, but I know there's a lot of people that do. So, you know, drop a comment. Mr. Compress, this is a character that actually surprises me that so many people still think this. He is 52% of people, 46 people think he is still B tier, okay? Now, personally, if I were giving my vote, I would put Compress in A tier because all they have done is buff him recently. He has so much escapability. He has a ton of damage, right? And he can block and deflect shots back at the enemy. I feel like he's really good. I feel like the reason people probably place Compress into B tier is because his early game is a little bit weak, okay? But his late game is crazy strong. So I understand him being B tier, but I feel like there's an argument for him to be A tier. So if you guys would like to see him in A tier, make sure you vote if you haven't voted already. And then Kirishima. Kirishima is in A tier right now. I think he could definitely be S. We have a lot of people who think the same. Not quite as many people who think he's A tier though. The reason he is in A tier is because he lacks range, right? If a character like Bakugo is going against Kirishima, Kirishima technically has the advantage in terms of damage nowadays, but Bakugo has that mid to long range where if he's smart, he will kite the Kirishima around, and Kirishima just can't do anything. Smart Kirishimas, though, will try to get to like the last circle, kind of riding their way through and killing whoever they can who walks by them. But then if you get to the last circle, it's small enough, there's no place for Bakugo to go, or characters like Todoroki to run away. And so that's when Kirishima is really going to shine and really going to be crazy and going to be S tier. So like early game, I agree, he's probably A tier. End game, I think he's S tier. So it's kind of like, that's a hard one to justify where you want to put him, right? But there's an argument for him to be S tier. It'd be kind of cool to see him in S tier eventually. You know, the character that everyone thought was like B to D tier, like not very good at the start. Well, now he's an S tier. That'd be cool to say, right? Next we have Endeavor. I wanted for the longest time, I had this argument, Endeavor and All Might are very similar. They have similar kits, they do similar things. Endeavor just kind of has a little bit better range on some of his skills. And I wanted Endeavor to be in S tier with All Might, right? I wanted them to be on the same level because I felt like they did similar things, but they were different enough to be in the same tier. Well, I got what I wanted. They are both in A tier now, but unfortunately, Endeavor didn't move up. All Might moved down. So, yeah, that's a fat L, but it is what it is. So, Endeavor will stay in A tier where he is. Ibra. Ibra is in B tier according to people. Ibra is one of those characters who has just been, like Kendo, consistently down towards the bottom of the tier list, and that is largely due to lacking mobility. So if you were to ask me, like, what can we do to get Ibra higher on the tier list? Mobility in some way, shape, or form. Maybe like a mobility buff like Kendo got. I feel like she needs like a rework of one of her skills potentially, though, that gives her a little bit more mobility. Like, realistically, think about it. Ibra can grow those vines infinitely. She could grow those vines out from her head and use them as like longer legs to walk across the map faster. I don't know. I might just be coping at this point, but I mean, that could be a viable option. If you step on somebody with the vines, then it ends up, you know, doing damage to them. Just an idea. It could have like a limited range, like it's a straightforward dash with walking on the vines or something like that. I don't know. That's just an idea. Let me know if you guys have better ideas for like how to improve Vine's rank and get her higher in the tier list, but that's just one of my ideas that I think could potentially work. But that would of course require a kit rework, and we have yet to see a actual kit rework from the developers since the game launched. So I don't know if they will actually ever do that. Obviously Overwatch is doing that all the time because people are really mad at their game. But yeah. And then Momo, a lot of people have put her in A. I agree, she is an A tier character. She can be really annoying with that shield. She has the ability to potentially be an S tier character, but she is a high skill ceiling character when you factor in her cannon. At least her cannon is kind of hard to use, position, and make use of. So for that reason, I would say she could be an S tier character, but at the same time, she could be a B tier character. So she's one that could be anywhere. It just depends. Obviously, playing on console and PC for a character like this as well, I feel like it influences people's voting. So hard to say where these people are from, whether they're console players or PC players. And then Konari down here. Konari is in A tier. I love seeing him in A tier to this day. I love that some people are starting to vote for S tier. That's amazing. I am interested to see if the votes eventually swing towards S tier. That'd be very, very cool to see. But for right now, Konari being in A tier is great. I'm very happy. People slept on Konari for the longest time, but now that he has the extra mobility, the extra damage on his AoE, which was not needed, he's nuts. He's nuts. And then Ida went from S tier down to A tier. We still got some people riding the copium train saying Ida is S tier, 29 people, whereas we have 40 people saying he is A tier. He's A tier now. He's much easier to kill with the health decrease. It made a big difference, right? So Ida down in A tier. We have Kendo down here, overwhelmingly in B tier. A few people think it's split between A and C tier. However, I do think Kendo is B tier now. I think she needs something as well, kind of like Dobby, and something that I think she could have, whether it's on her special or whether it's on her alpha, is the ability to actually pick up a boulder and like throw it at somebody and stun them for a second. That'd be so much more useful than like her special skill, which is just pick somebody up and throw them into a fight. Like, it's cool, but it's gimmicky. It's not really that efficient in team play. Like, it's fun to throw a Kirishima in and let him dive bomb people, but I don't know. It's not that great. It could be better. So I feel like being able to pick up a boulder off the map or items or terrain or stuff off the map would be cool. Or if it's on her alpha, you know, if she holds the charge on it instead of throwing pebbles, she throws a boulder. Something like that would be cool. That's my opinion on Kendo, how you can make her better. Because at this point, I feel like people aren't that worried about her mobility as much as they used to. Because she did get the mobility buff a while back. And then we have Shigaraki. Shigaraki, they haven't really done anything with ever, I don't think. Have they ever even done a buff or a nerf to him? I don't think they've touched him since the game's launch, but he's stayed pretty consistently in A tier. So that's just where we're going to leave him. Nothing's going to change with him. Todoroki, the character that needs a buff, 10 buffs, like so many buffs. He needs the buffs. Overwhelmingly S tier still. People still think he's S tier. Same with Toga. The difference is Todoroki is an easy character to play, so everybody feels that impact of this character being broken, which is why we have so many votes for S. Trust me when I say Toga is S and not A. It's just not everybody can play Toga well. So that's why we have less votes for S, but overall these two characters, I would say need some nerfs. They need some nerfs pretty badly, and they didn't really touch them. So yeah, Todoroki and Toga will stay S tier. Nothing's going to happen to them, at least until season 3. Probably they won't do another patch, I imagine, and hopefully in season 3 with the introduction of the map, we get a new character and we get some information on buffs and nerfs. But so far, we're getting pretty close, and still no news of the character. So yeah. And then we have Sue, last but not least. This is crazy that her pie chart is so divided. We have a lot of people thinking she's B, we have a lot of people thinking she's A, and then we actually have a few people still thinking she's S. Personally, I think she's A tier now. I think if you're going to put Ida in A tier, Sue should be A tier. I can't believe she's in B tier, really. I can't believe that everybody has voted for the frog to be down in B tier, and I don't know why. She was in A tier before this recent round of buffs and nerfs, right? And in this round of buffs and nerfs, she got buffed. And we still moved her down. Why? Why are we moving her down now? Why didn't we move her down before? I'm so confused. I feel like she's A. I played her a lot. I get that she doesn't have as much damage. She's not able to steal kills as much as she used to because they changed the way the KO and down system works. But like, I don't know. I still feel like she's A tier at least, but let me know in the comments why you guys think it is that she is B tier, why people have voted for her to be B tier. Explain your reasoning, you know. Please be nice in the comments to each other, of course. And then, which systems do you play on is the last question I like to ask people, just to kind of see where people are coming from, because obviously the way the game plays is going to be different on console versus PC and whatnot for different players. And so we had 29% of people on PC, we had 33% of people on PlayStation, we had 16 people on Xbox, or 18% of people, and then we had 18% of people on Switch. So those are kind of the percentages of people who play on different consoles, and so you can kind of understand why the voting is the way it is. And once again, if you guys would like to change where any of these characters are placed on the tier list for next week as we get to the end of season 2, before we get into season 3, make sure you go check the description of this video and cast your vote, and we'll see what changes next week. I can't believe nothing changed this week. It's really insane to me that we didn't move a single character. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, please go down there, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and like I've been telling you all video, leave some comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.